We'd like to thank Cobra Garden and Mr Fothergill Seeds for their support in making Pots and Trowels gardening videos. Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels. Today I'm going to be checking the soft fruit in the fruit cage and planting Dahlia tubers out in the garden. We love soft fruit and we use it in all sorts of puddings, and Jill makes delicious jams with it, but we also find the birds love it as well. So things like the gooseberries, the red currants and the black currants we grow in this fruit cage that I've made just so that we can protect the fruit when it's ripening. So any time now I'm going to start and put the covers back down to make sure the birds can't get in there, but I like to check them over first. It's just a case of making sure they're growing okay. This is a late flowering red currant called Ravada, which is nicely in flower, but on the earlier varieties and on the gooseberries we've actually got small fruits already starting to develop on them. So it's just a case of checking them over. If there's any little bits of dead wood on there like that, just snip them off. It just keeps them nice and clean and healthy. And also, if it's been dry where you are, which it has here in North Yorkshire, we've had a really dry second half of March and April. So I'm just going to probably give them a drink with a watering can each around the base to make sure they've got plenty of moisture, and that way the berries are going to swell and develop. The other thing I grow in here is blueberries, but they're grown slightly differently. The blueberries are grown in containers, and that's simply because they need acid soil conditions. So unless you can naturally grow rhododendrons in your garden really well, I would always recommend that you grow them in pots using an ericaceous compost. My soil is neutral to alkaline, so it's got lime in. So if I plant them in the garden, they're going to look pale and chlorotic, but this way I can control the acidity. And they grow fine in pots like this. These have been in these for several years. They produce a good crop. The birds love them, so does Molly. If Molly could get them, she will eat them and eat them and eat them. So that's why these are always in this fruit cage. So what I'm going to do again is just check them over. They are prone to a little bit of dieback, so any little dead bits in there, it's good practice with anything to take out any dead wood on anything. It just helps to prevent any diseases spreading, and it encourages new growth. So all I'm doing is cutting any shoots back into healthy wood like that. So that's going to be absolutely fine. And then the other thing is they must never be allowed to dry out. They like damp conditions, so you need to keep them watered. Now ideally rainwater is best if you can get it, but unfortunately my rain butts are all dry at the moment, so I've got to use tap water. That's better than nothing. But they also need to be fed, so give them an ericaceous feed once every couple of weeks, or what I like to use is good old-fashioned seaweed fertilizer that's full of all the trace elements and nutrients in there, and I just give them a good soak a couple of times a week, and that seems to be enough. That keeps them going and nice and healthy. And then what will happen is these beautiful little bell-shaped flowers that are just starting to open will develop into berries, and by July, August time we'll be able to pick fresh blueberries, and freshly picked ones are so much better than the ones you buy in supermarkets. These have got so much more flavour, so they're really worth growing in containers, but keep the birds off them. One of the things I always like to do in the veg plot is to grow a few cut flowers, and we've already sown some annual seeds, but in this bed just here I grow a few dahlias, and I love dahlias. They're really good cut flowers, and they provide so much colour in the garden from August right the way through autumn until we get the first frost. And for those of you that have been following us for a while, you'll probably remember that last November we lifted the Dahlia tubers, and we normally wait until they've had a bit of frost on them and the tops go black and are killed back. At that point we lift the tubers. Now some people leave them in the ground. If you live somewhere where it's mild, then they're fine, but if you live in a frosty area, and we're in North Yorkshire, it can be cold. Having said that, we had a very mild winter just past, but I like to lift them anyway so that the slugs don't cause any damage. And they've been stored frost free over winter and are now ready to plant, and I always like to plant them around the end of April, early May, so that by the time the new shoots start to push through in 3 or 4 weeks time, hopefully the danger of frost gone and they won't be damaged. They are frost tender, so you must not let them be frosted at all. So these are some of the tubers. Now the ones I lifted in the autumn. We put them in a crate with some old potting compost around them, and they've been kept just damp in a frost-free greenhouse. And you can see that these have just started to sprout a little bit just here. We've got some nice little shoots coming, so I've got to be careful when I plant these that I don't damage them. This one here has been kept out of compost. It's been kept fairly dry in a dark shed. So this one stayed dormant, and I've just moistened it ready for planting just to absorb a little bit of water there. And I can see if I look really close, there are just some little buds starting to burst. So these are at the perfect stage to plant. So what I've done is I've dug a nice deep hole just here. It's all ready for planting. Bigger obviously than the tuber, nice and deep. I've improved it with a little bit of compost that's been worked in, and then the other thing I'm going to do is just add a little bit of fertilizer that I'm just going to sprinkle around the hole on the soil that I've dug out, so that as they start to grow it just gives them a few nutrients. It's a case of just popping it into the hole there. I'm just going to take that label off, and we'll use that in a minute, and we can see that I want these little shoots here to be about 2 inches below the level of the soil, and then it's just a case of pulling the soil back round it, and then just giving that a bit of a firm to make sure the soil is around the roots as we go. And then this is the bit we need to be careful, because we've already got a bit of growth on it. I'm just going to filter that round. Don't worry if you're burying it slightly, it will grow through it, so don't worry too much. And then just firm that round just to finish it off. And I know it's there, so just to remind me, I'm just going to push a cane in there, so that is where the clump is, and then I can put my label back on there so we know exactly where this tuber is. Give it a drink if the ground's dry, just to settle the soil around the roots, and that'll encourage it to grow. And then what I'm going to do is, like I've done with this one, is get 3 bamboo canes, put them in a triangle around the clump, loop some string round it, so as the shoots grow that will contain them, and we can strengthen this and put some bigger supports in as they get bigger. And the only other thing you need to look out for are slugs. Slugs love the new shoots of Dahlia, so you need to control your slugs with whatever method you use, beer traps, or if you want to use the organic slug pellets. And then if we get some shoots visible and there's a frost forecast, just pull a bit of soil over them or put some fleece over them to protect them, and then within a month's time we should have nice strong plants starting to develop, and we can look forward to those fabulous flowers in late summer. Well, there we go, that's the fruit protected from the birds. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, all the back episodes of Pots and Trowels are on Facebook, and of course they're on the YouTube channel where they're grouped together, and they're both free to subscribe to. Next time we're going to be planting tomatoes in the polytunnel, and I'll be looking at ways to support your perennials. See you then, and keep safe. Bye.